This is my first Instagram live, and I'm going to have my beautiful Shakti sister Victoria joining in just a minute when I figure out how to do this. So let's see. Today we will be talking about music and mindfulness. Music has been a really major part of my life from when I was a child. My mom was a music teacher and a musician, and I sang in church choir, and I took piano lessons, and I did music all throughout my schooling. Everything music in my life. My whole family was music, but mostly classical music. So I had a little bit of a time getting to the point where I could get into more popular music, which is what I really wanted to do. Okay, so let me try and figure out how to add Victoria. Oh, you have no requests. Okay, hopefully she'll be on in a minute. So let me know if you're here listening and hanging out with me on my very first Instagram Live. I'm not very good at Instagram. I'm trying to learn how to use it, and Victoria is my Shakti manager now. So she's encouraging me to do these things and to get more on the Instagram platform. Okay, so until she joins, I am just going to start talking about this subject of music and mindfulness. So, like I said, I was doing classical music for most of my life, but I really was craving doing more rock music, and I studied a little bit of jazz when I was in junior high. There was a jazz band at my school, but my musical upbringing really involved playing from sheet music because that's why I was trained. That's why I was trained both with singing and with piano. I had a classical piano teacher she didn't teach me any theory or anything. It was all about scales and learning from the musical page, which was good at the time, but I always craved something different. And I always also craved playing pieces that were maybe a little more avant-garde than she was giving me to play. But I do value those early years of learning the basics of that musical practice. So from there, I decided I wanted to play popular music. And my whole life took a huge turn when I left home because it was a pretty stifled environment for me expressively. And I decided that I wanted to do something. I wanted to be out in the world, and I wanted to express myself. And I became a deadhead and hippie, and well, there's a lot of things that happened. But what ended up happening was me being in San Francisco. And I suppose that's when I allowed my musical expression to really evolve. So, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get Victoria on here with me. This is my experimental day, so if you're here, I appreciate it. And give me a second here. Just a minute. Okay, great. Here's Victoria.
Hi,
Hi.
nice to see you.
Nice to see see you. Are you, can your picture come on or just your voice?
Oh, my picture normally is on. Can you see me?
No.
Yeah, I don't know why this is happening. I think we just need to let it be. It happened last time, but usually it's something that it usually works. So I'm quite surprised it's not coming up. I can see myself, but you can't see me. Yeah,
Oh, okay. No, I can't see you.
it's okay. We'll just accept it, and on the replay, people will see us. So I'll just
Oh, okay.
introduce. Yeah, I'll just introduce today's live session. So, welcome everyone. Um, we're really happy to host you today with Kai, and we're going to be talking about a very powerful topic about music and mindfulness, as specifically related to the Shaktipat practice. Kai has been, just initiated into and carried forth for, I think, 20 years, Kai. Like, how long has it been?
I was just talking about that. Do you mean with my music?
Uh, with your music, but also with the Shaktipat practice. When was it? 20 years ago?
30.
30. Wow. So it's been 30 years you've been practicing,
Well, I was
and
27 and I'm 56 now, so yeah,
wow,
almost
amazing.
30 years.
Wow.
But I was just saying before you got on how I've really been doing music since I was a child.
Mm. And yeah, and could you tell us more about your journey through music and how it started for you?
Yeah. So I was just saying that I was raised in a family of musicians, and my mom was a music teacher, and it was all classical music. So I was in church choir. I took piano lessons. I was in all the school music programs. I played French horn too. And, and so I sang classical style music and I played classical piano. And it was really interesting because I learned from a very strict classical teacher. So I didn't learn any theory or anything. Everything I learned was from the page, reading from the page, which it was a great base to start with, but it has been a bit of a struggle for me to go into more popular styles of music from that, which is kind of where I was when you came on, is talking about the aspects of going from a strict classical musician only reading what's on the page to exploring your own voice. So I think that when I left home and I started, I became a hippie and I started exploring life in general. That's when I started also exploring music, and I really had to explore my voice because I did not know how to sing like a rock singer at all. And I went through a lot of really uncomfortable moments with that. I went to a music school in San Francisco called Blue Bear School of Music where you can, you're in a band, but it was uncomfortable for a long time. I didn't find my voice for a while. When the Shakti happened, so when I was 27, and I had taken a lot of voice lessons from great teachers up until this point, but when the Shakti happened at 27 and I had my Kundalini awakening, I moved into the ashram and I fully took on the musical aspect of being there. I learned all the Sanskrit hymns and the chants, and I started playing the harmonium. And that's when I think I really was able to let my voice open up because I
Mm.
just surrendered to the Shakti and I let the Shakti sing. And I didn't care what it sounded like. But I think that's when things really started evolving for me with my music.
Mm. And um, how often do you use music in your Shaktipat practice? Is it constantly there? Because I know you also use light language, and the light language flows through you, right? Which is part of the practice, and
Yeah.
the sounds, and also the sacred chants. And um, could you tell us a little bit more about how you've incorporated that into your practice? Is it just you surrendering to the sacred sounds moving through. For people who don't really know how to incorporate voice in their spiritual practice, this could be very interesting and powerful for them to hear
Mhm.
you.
Yes, and this, well, we could probably talk about this for a long time, but I'll try to condense it. So when the Shakti moves through the body, she kind of takes over. And I don't want to say that in a scary way, but it's like the divine force of love or of graces coming through your body. So you surrender and let that happen. So she also does that with music and singing. And so I would say in my practice, musically, the voice will come through quite often in a singing tone. And I watch it. I watch it happen. I'm never doing it. And she'll come through in all different kinds of traditions, even. Sometimes it'll sound Native American. I mean, all kinds of different vocal styles and languages will come through me during just my regular sessions if I'm doing a group session or an individual session. And that can be really powerful. So that's one aspect of the work. And so that also happens with other people. Like other people I've worked with for long periods of time will start sometimes, not everybody, speaking light language or singing in this. The Shakti sings through them. So the other aspect I would say is when I'm actually doing kirtan. So I used to do a lot of live in-person sessions before I started doing everything online, pretty much with COVID. And I haven't found a way to do the chanting online in a way that works. It's been kind of weird with the sound. But all of my live programs, I always chant before the program, and I always encourage everyone to open up their voice and use their voice and chant with me because there's something so magical about when we're chanting. And I always start a program this way because it opens up the energy to grace. And it's almost like a big portal opens. If I wait for the moment, I will chant until that moment comes when this big portal of light opens. And it's like it just allows all the saints, all the beings of light, all the guides, the grace to come in. There's something about the music and something about the chanting that just opens everything up. And it starts the program. It starts the energy of the program. I miss that I can't do it online, actually. But so I've had people that say they're tone deaf, that can't sing, that are scared to death to sing, come to my programs. And if they come long enough, eventually they will surrender and allow themselves to sing. So we'll do a chant that's, it's a set chant, and we'll do it over and over again. And that's beautiful. But then sometimes I go into a spontaneous chant where I encourage everyone just to surrender to their divine energy and let come out whatever wants to come out. And it becomes this beautiful angelic choir of people that have never sung before, or people that say they can't sing. One woman that used to come to a lot of my programs actually does now does sound healing. And she said she was tone deaf, couldn't sing. I think somebody in school, which is very common, told her she couldn't sing or told her she was tone deaf. And now she actually does sound healing for, like, that's her work. And so there's something so magical about this energy opening up the grace and opening up people's hearts. And chanting is just such an amazing way to open the heart. And I've done it at yoga festivals too, where just you have this crowd of people who are all just in the energy and the vibration of love, allowing this music to come through. Are you there?
I'm saying,
Oh,
I'm saying, beautiful. I just cut my sound
oh,
temporarily because there was some background noise. No, I was just saying, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that gives like a very good perspective on how practitioners can include sound in their practice and how powerful and how much of a game changer it can be to take that step. Because a lot of people are shy with sound, like you mentioned. And I think once we break through that barrier, there's so much opening up in our practice, especially devotional practices like yours. which I also feel sound plays a role in. And so, um, how can we, as practitioners, because people who will listen to this video are practitioners, spiritual seekers, or simply people who want to discover more about spirituality. How could these people, both men and women, incorporate music into their daily mindfulness routines? Are there any tips you could give people? Um, or yeah, just small hints on how to do that uh, throughout the week to stay connected to grace. Because yeah, it just takes practice to be constantly connected to Shakti, right, and the divine. So what would you recommend doing?
I would suppose it would depend at what level someone is connected into their heart space and their spirituality. If someone has a regular practice and they are accustomed to tuning into their divine self, I think the most beautiful thing to do would be to either find online chanting or just an online, if you could just find an online basic harmonium track or um, something with just basic tonal music, atonal music, and just surrender. And this takes practice if you're not used to it, but just surrendering and becoming really quiet and still with yourself and tuning into your heart and really feeling that place in the center of your heart. And then tuning into your solar plexus in your belly and really feeling that place in your solar plexus in your belly. And allowing that music, listening to that music from a deeper space, from your heart, from your belly. And that alone might take some practice and some time to listen from a really deep place, to listen from that place within you that hears the music from a very specific frequency, from a frequency of light. And you never want to feel like you're forcing, and it never should feel uncomfortable. But then just allow grace to come through, and whatever that feels like. So maybe you might just start, say, okay, I'm going to just sing something that feels comfortable to me. And this is how I also write songs. So if you're a songwriter, this is how I write songs. I just surrender. I clear all of my thoughts, all extra thoughts that are going on in my mind. Try to let them go as much as possible so you're really tuning into a pure place. And then you just wait. You wait in silence, and you wait because silence is also beautiful music of the soul. And you wait in silence until something wants to be spoken or something wants to be sung. Or if you're an instrumentalist, something wants to be played. It could be one note, it could be one tone. Um, Lyrics could come forward. Like I said, this is where my lyrics often, very often come from. I just tune in. I just close my eyes and I tune in. And I ask God, I ask the divine to show me, is this supposed to be a song? What is this? Is this just a moment for me to be alone with the divine and sing? But the more that you tune in, the more that you focus on the energy, the more that you allow, eventually something's going to come forward. It just is. It could take time. It could be oming. You can start with oming and just do long periods of oming. Or any other thing. If you know mantras, do mantras, sing mantras, and allow it to come. Like, you don't want to think about it. That's why we want to get our mind out of it. We always want to tune into that place within us that is the voice of the divine. And so eventually we're in this place where we're very comfortable with just letting the voice of the divine come through. And it opens our expression for the whole day. If we do this in the morning before we start our day, it opens our expression for the whole day. Because then we've opened that whole channel. We've opened the channel from, the first chakra, the belly, up through the solar plexus, up through the heart, out through the throat. So we're just allowing that to open, allowing that to open, allowing that to open. If we start our day with that, then every communication we have during the day is going to be established in that place of grace. Hi, nice to see you. Britt, my friend Britt is here. Oh, I see Tori's here too. Hi, Tori. I played music with Tori. Wow, a long time ago. Very long time ago. 20 years ago.
And could you share with us like a few personal experiences where music impacted like your Shakti, yeah, like your journey into Shakti and your journey into yoga and the sacred heart of yoga, which is Shakti. Could you share with us a little bit more about how it impacted you?
How music impacted my journey?
Yes.
That we said. Wow. There have been times in my life where I was going through something very, very difficult. So in the Shakti journey, a lot of stuff can come up and it can get really hard sometimes. Like when you're clearing something and it's hard and you can't sleep and you're up, or when I was pregnant, this happened to me a lot when I was pregnant, where I would be up in the middle of the night. Everybody else is asleep, or you're just up by yourself in the middle of the night. Something's coming up to clear. I had to clear a lot during my pregnancies. So my harmonium has been my friend. So I just sit down with my harmonium and all the saints' pictures around me, because that's how I do it. And I just sing. And sometimes I will sing a specific chant, and sometimes I just play a drone note or a couple drone notes, and I just sing. And it might sound ugly. That's another thing when you're doing this practice. If you have stuff to clear, it might not sound like pretty singing, which is that's not really the goal here. The goal is to allow the
I
stuff.
can relate to that. I can really relate to that. Sometimes you just want to express like ugliness to get those
Yeah,
out of your system.
absolutely. Victoria gets very strong Shakti manifestations. So she dances and she sings and all the steps. She knows.
Yeah. It feels nice to talk about it because it's like it's also this part of, I think, for a lot of people who will come to you and already have come to you, or anybody experiencing like a Kundalini awakening, it just feels so good to talk about this because the path can feel a little bit lonely. And that it's also a path of self-expression and liberation. So, and sometimes that liberation takes so many different shapes and forms for us to come back to unity and love. And it just feels good listening to you. And I think for people listening to us now, it feels very soothing and yeah, just reassuring that there's no right or wrong. It simply is. And we simply
Yes.
have to welcome all of these expressions instead of judging them.
Yes. It's interesting because having my YouTube channel, it touches people from all over the world, and people are having these Kundalini awakenings, and they might be in some little village somewhere that nobody knows anything about Kundalini awakening, and they do feel very alone and very isolated. And they'll hear my voice and say, "Oh my God, that the same voice has been coming through me, and now I understand it." So I'm so happy that we're able to communicate. You know, Victoria's in Paris right now, so I mean, this is cool. That we can just get on here and communicate like this, and I think it helps a lot of people to be able to hear, which is why I also did the whole Kundalini interviews for a while. To I talked to a lot of different teachers about it. I think it's so helpful for people to understand that they're not alone, to understand that this is a very divine process that they're going through, that it's the awakening is something to be desired. If you have the right support, it can be a very beautiful process, but it also can be very difficult. And that's what I was saying with the harmonium. There were times when I would just chant, all night long. I would chant for a little bit and lay down, and chant for a little bit and lay down, because that helps me to release. It helps me to express.
Hmm. It's so interesting what you're saying. I'm just tapping into another aspect of the topic, but it's like, it's also there's such a tendency within our society to give meaning and explain things, right? But that enlightenment, and especially through Kundalini energy, cannot really, like, there's no point explaining it. It's just something that you have to experience. And for a lot of people, I can see a lot of practitioners I'm meeting, and even myself, right? And I'm really having to teach myself to just surrender more. It's just we get really attached to certain expressions, we get attached to um, certain abilities, or that Kundalini opens up, but that's like a whole different realm. But we can just link it to music, right? Like Kundalini can give us beautiful musical abilities, but in the end, we just have to be. It moves through us. We can't control it, and it's just it. You, do you get what I mean? It's just this sense of like wanting to control it, but it's just we shouldn't think. And this is what you're explaining, right? Because this is how you touch upon the musical practice. You're not controlling it, and you're just moving with it, and it makes it much softer than some other people who might want to control it, or other traditions, right? Where Kundalini is really utilized and structured, and it looks
Oh
a
yeah,
little painful, I have to say. I mean, you
yeah.
might have witnessed in certain traditions in certain continents,
Mm-hmm.
and to really bring up a lot of softness in that approach to like the enlightenment process. So I just want to share from what I've observed, because yeah, I think we just have to remove the control and go more into surrender, and I think music can help us with that. And
Yes.
how do you, when you meet people in presence, in immersions or retreats or workshops, or even you've also co-produced the Festival, and you're also wanting to produce more music and share more of the divine essence through musical creations and creativity. Um, what are you envisioning? What's coming ahead in terms of your creative impulses and what's coming to you?
Yeah. So at this point, so I did an album with a beautiful man here in town that runs a music school. I was taking guitar lessons from him, and he liked my songs, and so he recorded an album with me and some amazing musicians. And that was of music, just like songwriting music, and a lot of it was about my spiritual journey. Um, I consider all of life to be my spiritual journey, but they might not sound like spiritual songs particularly. Some of them do. And then I really got into chant. Then I kind of dropped that project, had my kids, and while I was having my kids, I did a lot of chanting because that was just my spiritual practice. And then I started doing festivals with the chanting. So that was pretty strictly kirtan and chanting. At this point in my life, I am very inspired to bring genres together and to just bring the Shakti into all of it. So it doesn't have to, and this again comes to people, judging a certain aspect of what something is supposed to look like or sound like, because most of the kirtan festivals, it's pretty much all kirtan. And then you don't bring spiritual music much into the regular songwriter scene. But what I'm doing is I'm writing these songs from a perspective of grace. So they might look and sound like regular songs as much as my songs can be regular. Um, but I'm writing them with the intention of invoking spiritual awakening within people and allowing people to have the spiritual experience through the songs that I'm writing. So, and my son has been working on it with me, and my son plays guitar, but he also is very into electronic music and synthesizers and like that whole aspect, and he likes techno. Yeah. So,
Yeah, we can bring on some more Shakti techno.
well,
You know,
we are, but I also love jazz, right? I also love jazz. I think jazz is very spiritual, at the core essence of it. I love jazz. So I'm learning piano again, which is very much of a challenge for me. Learning jazz is like, oh, really, really challenging. But I've decided to do it because I want to bring all of this together, and I want to do some jazz standards and songs that I'm writing now from this perspective of the Shakti, but not necessarily being spiritual songs, how someone might think of that. And some cover songs that I really love, like some of the Beatles, Let It Be, and some Led Zeppelin, In the Light, just some of the songs that I think have really caught that essence of spirituality. And then going into a set of kirtan, techno kirtan. Which is,
oh, that
so
would
my
be
son will be
amazing.
my son will be doing his thing with his electronics, and I'll be playing harmonium and chanting, and we're going to weave all that together.
That's amazing.
So it's going to be a very eclectic set, and I really have no idea where we're going to play a set like this. But again, I know the Shakti has ideas of how to open all this up.
Wow, it's incredible. You just remind me, I was envisioning like a world music set with like a musician friend of mine, and we would just sing different songs from different like traditions, but just interweave it and trade something out of it. And I think literally this is literally what you're proposing, and I think it's so important that we just bring like polarities or things that might seem opposites together, because this is what the Shakti does as well. She also brings things that might seem in opposition, but actually she unites them because she's such a unifying force.
Yes.
So I just love the fact that you bring together devotional music and techno, which is also, yeah.
It's probably being done, honestly, with all these festivals and everything. It's probably being done. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I
still.
think starting a set with jazz standards and then ending with like techno kirtan is a little out there, but it's what I love. So that's what I want to do. But
Amazing.
I want it to be a beautiful Shakti experience. I want it to be a beautiful divine experience. That's the whole goal of doing it. If I weren't doing it for that reason, I wouldn't be doing it. It
Mm.
has to be that
Yes,
reason.
for transmission.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
um, and how have you experienced the healing power of music? Because we talked about music in mindfulness practices, specifically applied to the Shaktipat tradition. Um, but how about the healing power of it? Because you mentioned you were doing a lot of clearings during your pregnancy, right? Or,
Hmm.
this is something we could address to female practitioners who are working with Shakti, who are embodying more of the divine feminine essence. And yeah, and there's a healing journey through it. So if you could share more about that, especially for women, because I think we have a different way of clearing energy in a female body. So maybe that could apply for women specifically. And what would you like to share about the healing power of music, and how it helps you in your Kundalini journey?
Hmm. Well, it reminds me of the Shakti Pot session we just did Sunday because, as you're talking, I'm just feeling this right in my womb area. Um, so if we go into that first chakra, second chakra area, and that's the very core base of our expression, right? That area has to be open and flowing and thriving in order for us to fully express. It's like like that movement, the dance, and it just becomes the dance of life. So that area has to be open, and we need to open that up, which then goes into our power center, which is our solar plexus, which goes open to opening our heart center, which comes up into this area. So we're expressing through the throat and the mouth, but we're also expressing through the crown chakra. So with music, allowing that expression. So it's this, you're going on this kind of a seesaw where you're afraid to express, right? As women, obviously, women in history, we are afraid to express. We have witch wounds. We know what happens to us when we express. So we're trying to heal all of that shit from so long. Um, not being able to express who we truly are, not being the power, powerful goddesses that we are. So allowing ourselves to feel into those areas and to feel first off into the womb, into the first chakra area, feeling safe. We have to feel safe. We have to feel open. We have to feel free to express. We have to open up that channel of energy. That's where it all starts, right? At the base chakra. We have to open up that channel of energy so that it can flow. If it doesn't flow from there, we're always going to be cut here, right? Like you can hear some people sometimes when they sing or something, you can tell that they're stuck. They're like, they're not letting it go down into the depth of their being, their expression. So as we sing, we might feel stifled at first, and it might hurt, and the throat might hurt, and the heart might feel stifled. I went through all of this, and we have to get to that point where we just keep doing it, and we just keep allowing it, and we just keep surrendering, and we just keep going deeper into it, and we just keep doing the practice and allowing and surrendering and allowing and surrendering, allowing and surrendering, so we can come down into that womb space. We can allow the expression to come from that womb space. And that's when letting that Shakti fly free and express however she wants to express is really important. Like I said, even if it sounds ugly, and well, what we perceive of as ugly, I don't perceive any of these sounds as ugly anymore, because to me, if it's a pure expression of Shakti, it's like the most gorgeous sound. But it's getting into that very base, that very core of our being, allowing that expression to open up. And like I can feel it in my womb as I'm talking now. So we get to the point where and it might just be in a room by ourselves. This doesn't have to be a performance. Nobody has to hear this, or with other people who are also getting the Shakti expression, but allowing us to get to that place where we're fully expressing from that place, we're fully singing from that place. And then we can reel it in if we want to make it more of a performance oriented expression. We can reel it in, but getting to the very raw core of our being with the expression of music. And if you play an instrument, obviously you can do this with your instrument too. But the voice is just so personal to us. Anybody can express and open up their voice, even if they've never done it before. So it's huge, huge healing and allowing that. It can take a very long time for people to get up the courage. When I work with people, it can take a long time for them to get up the courage to even allow a little sound to come out. Before the Shakti wants to speak, I can tell the Shakti wants to speak or sing through them, and they're holding it back. It can take a long time, or it can happen right away. But it'll heal you. Allowing that sound to come through just heals every aspect of our expression and our being. Oh, and we just sing into the womb, or sing from the womb, and there's just it's that gorgeous goddess energy. So yeah.
Yes, I can totally relate to that. And it's so powerful. You mentioned that because I can feel my body through my Kundalini journey. A lot opened up in the first, like the upper chakras. And I feel like like Kundalini is sort of descending in my body and really guiding me into bringing more awareness to my womb space. And singing definitely helps the process. And I think a lot of people might be suffering on the path because they're not letting their voice out. And I think it's such a beautiful, like intuitive way of healing ourselves, and well, with a lot more autonomy and direct access to that inner wisdom and to the goddess, right? To like Shakti guiding us. And I think it just takes me back to very ancestral ways of healing.
Mm.
They're not just directed by the mind, but just we're healing ourselves with sound. How incredible is that? Just guided
So,
by source. And how about just healing ourselves this way with no hierarchy or just no
yes,
people who are above or below? It's just, I know you've been through this because we've both, we come from like a very similar lineage and we have like different lineages in common. And it's just, I think a lot of women who experience integrated and healed and went on that goddess path, just we all understand that healing comes from within, and we have to simply open spaces where people can just experience it and know how to get in touch with it, which is what you're doing and which is the essence of your work. You're helping people tapping into that inner knowing that is not outside them but just inside them. Is that, am I phrasing it correctly? I feel I am, but I wanted to check in with you.
absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And then it is all about creating that space for people to feel safe doing that because women just don't feel safe. That is what I get from everyone I work with. Women do not feel safe to be who we are, to express who we are, even to discover who we are. We just find we don't feel safe. So creating an environment where it is so safe to let every weird or divine or whatever expression come through is so powerful for us right now. So
Yeah.
powerful. And it's not just women, men too have gone through their own trauma with all of this.
Mm. Yeah. I feel it's also interesting because a lot of, I feel like it seems like, but I don't have the like scientific proof of it, but it feels like for men, it's more, it seems to be easier for them to internalize pain and to cut themselves away from it. But for women, we somatically keep it inside and we can become frozen, or like our expression can just, like even doing certain things could be blocked from that trauma. And
Mhm.
it just seems like, yeah, definitely it's a work well needed for women. And could you share a little bit more about how you've been working with music in the women's retreat you've been hosting?
Wait, which women's retreat?
Because I think you hosted like a few like retreats. I don't know if it was mixed or like only
Oh, it
women.
was mixed.
It was mixed. Okay. So for the mixed like retreats you were hosting, could you tell us more how you worked with music to do that sort of work and help facilitate that sort of space?
Yes. So, like I said earlier, when I do in-person group sessions, I always do chanting at least once, before the session starts. In that case, we chanted at least a couple times throughout the day. And I I first of all, I always tune in. I tune in to God. I tune into Goddess. I tune in to any saints or guides or helpers that need to be there with us. I ask what chant would be most beneficial for the moment, for everyone in the room, for that space. And I just start with my harmonium and chanting, and everyone gets a chant sheet, so everyone has the words if they do choose to chant. And people obviously don't have to chant, but I highly encourage it. But some people just zone out and meditate, which is fine too. And then, the people that do start chanting, we form this energetic alignment, and then in it'll start to open up. So it usually starts a little tight, and then I'll just chant. I mean, sometimes I can chant for half an hour or more. I just chant until it feels like it's opening, until everyone feels like they're opening to it. And then, like I said, a lot of times I will just play a drone note after, as kind of we're ending that chant. I will play a drone note and just go into spontaneous singing. And I really encourage everyone to do that with me. So I always do that at retreats because it opens up the space, it opens up hearts. Something happens to me when I chant. People say they hear more than one voice when I chant. And that really was happening at these retreats I was doing out in LA, saying they hear more than one voice coming out of me when I chant. So what that's about, I don't really know. I think it's just probably the guides and the angels singing with me, because I always see so many guides and angels and saints coming into the room when we're chanting. I mean, it's powerful. The chanting is a powerful practice, and it opens up a huge space for beautiful energies to join. And it's all about the voice. The voice is, I don't know what happens, but the voice is just this beautiful expression that allows us to join with the angels, you know? I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And I've seen people so beautifully open up through this practice who never thought they could sing, and then suddenly they're singing and they're expressing, and yeah. But that's a very interesting thing that came up, and then those sessions in LA that a lot of people, they were having a whole discussion about how they hear more than one voice when I sing. So it's a mystery. It's a beautiful mystery. Did I lose you, Victoria?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yes, I was just saying that I think I've asked you most of my question for today. Um, is there anything else you'd like to share with your audience, people who are listening to you? A final piece of just advice. I know you mentioned a lot around today around surrender and surrendering to Shakti with sound, with music, which I feel is like the key teaching of this session today, of just discussing how music can enrich our spiritual practice, our own path of enlightenment and healing, and just becoming more in harmony with ourselves and the world. Um, Anything else you'd like to share, for people who are still, who might not have integrated that surrender aspect, right? Because we still live in a society where, like, we're really programmed to do, to become, to create. And so any piece of advice, for young people, just like myself, or maybe just a little older, for just trying to find that balance between surrender and being in the world, that could be powerful also. And eventually.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, so as you're asking that question, I'm considering, because I'm still working on aspects of this within myself. When I do a Shakti program, it's very easy for me to surrender. I mean, when I chant, there's no problem. I sit down, I have the harmonium, I close my eyes, I chant, I go into this grace, and the singing happens, and it's beautiful. Um, Sitting down at my piano and the thought of actually performing a song, I still close down. I'm looking at this as we're talking about this. I still close down. I'm not fully surrendered to the process yet, because I suppose within myself, I'm still creating a division between what it means, to be on stage and just perform like secular music, and what it means to be on stage and allow the Shakti to come through. So this is a really good question. And as I meditate on it more, I should share about it more in the future, because I don't feel that I'm fully there yet. If just for someone who's just out singing, you see these people who just perform, and it's obvious that the energy has taken over, and they're completely in the moment of that performance, and you feel it to the point where you get goosebumps. It's amazing. Um, so for me, it's a meditative practice, and I work on it. And every time I play my songs and I work on my music, I work on that integration. I surrender, I open my heart. I'm working on integrating the surrender aspect into all of it, so that the performance that I talked about, I can start with jazz standards and be in the same place that I would be in when I'm doing my chanting at the end. But I don't think I've fully accomplished it yet. So I will share about that more as I meditate on it and learn more than myself.
amazing. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I shall, for people who listen to this live, we will be hosting new live sessions, another live session on the 13th of August on healing and love, on the 20th of August on relationships and personal growth. And there will also be a final live session on the 3rd of September. Just one more live around music, since Kai is really, diving deeper into that topic. So
Yes, and I'll work deeply on this, what we just talked about before that one.
absolutely. And I think people might enjoy also just how you're intersecting like mysticism and spirituality and music and embodiment also, because you're also utilizing music as a way to also integrate parts of new ways of being and radiating light in this world. So I think it's beautiful. So yeah, just save those dates and join us, because we would love to have you here. Feel free to ask questions. Kai is also available if you're wanting to learn more about the private containers he's creating. We will also be hosting weekly satsangs and a group Shaktipat every full moon. So there's a lot here we're offering you for you to journey through this on this wonderful path and really access this ancient wisdom that is just being reclaimed and I think is necessary in our modern world. So it's just such an honor to be creating those spaces with you, Kai. And feel free to send your questions, and we will be posting more about this gorgeous program on Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Bye.
How do I end this? Do I push the X?
Yes.
Okay. Bye.